All right. So today we're going to talk about credit. Pretty important. Like I say, pretty much anything in your life dealing with finances, credit will some way affect it. And if you get in over your head, obviously it's going to be a very negative term. But if you do things right, it actually enables you to get ahead. And it's just something you have to sort of master. And then assessing credit as well in terms of your credit score and things like that. People are always focused on. So it's a loan type thing. You're renting money is what you're doing. Sometimes it's a good idea to rent it. To say that borrowing money is always a bad idea. Well, borrowing money at a high interest rate for frivolous stuff that depreciates, yeah, that's a horrible idea. But borrowing stuff and then making more money with it is a great idea. They're going to split up credit in different ways here. Non-installment credit. This would be something like a credit card, perhaps, where there's not a fixed payment or department store type thing. There might be a minimum payment, but it's not a fixed payment like a house, like a car. Installment credit, specific purchases sometimes. So this is typically not tied to a specific item. Installment credit typically is. Installment credit is typically going to be at a lower rate because there's more predictability to it. Plus, there's an asset out there. Things like repossession laws and the rest of that are a good thing because it eliminates or minimizes, alleviates a lot of the risk that the lender, encounters. The lender's not going to, suck it up and give you the same interest rate if there's not an asset that he can't or she can't, whatever, repo. But if they can, if there's clearly established state law where they can just, literally come out there and take it back, and there's nothing you can say about it. It's a completely legal process. As long as you haven't made the payments, then that's a positive thing because it enables credit to operate for, you know, lower interest rates. Sometimes you have open-ended credit, revolving type credit, credit lines and stuff like that. The problem with banks and credit in general is when you don't need money, they want to loan it to you all day. But when you get to, and that's because you're at a certain point. But if you don't have much money, it's exceedingly difficult to borrow money. Try and borrow money for raw land or a construction loan on a home. Anything that kind of has a history of being out of the ordinary and perhaps a little flakier, it's typically unattainable. You'll see a huge parcel and you'll say, there's a $300,000 home, but there's this big vacant lot and I'd rather have the home is going to be easy to finance because even though it could be in a beat or in a bad neighborhood, the raw land it scares people. It's hard to establish value, and the interest rate is going to be typically double if you can find a lender to do it. So you got to be a little bit more creative. Anyway, advantages of using credit. So, I'm talking about executing credit. Here they're talking about just building a good credit score. And it is pretty useful. Eliminates the need for carrying cash or writing checks. This can get kind of dangerous. I don't want to go down the whole conspiratorial tinfoil hat, but when they talk about, central bank digital currencies and programmable money, we saw a shade of that up in Canada where, you're not doing exactly what we want. We're going to turn off your money. You may have money in your account, but yeah, we're not going to let you spend it, which is kind of dangerous. So I think a lot of that's kind of backfired. I think that introduced a lot of paranoia and people. Anyway, for me, anyway, I would be highly resistant to a system like that, given a choice. How much longer people have a choice? That's the problem. Disadvantages of using credit. Yeah, it takes some discipline. And it's real easy to spend money with credit. I do this. I once in a while I'll sell things from my business, and you kind of got to size people up when you're doing it because obviously I want to sell as much as possible, make as much money as possible. But if I sell and I do accept credit cards, but if I take a credit card, then I got to pay 3%, you know, to the credit card company. It's semi-free for the the user of the credit card as long as they pay off their bill every month. But the actual merchant who sells the thing, they have to pay a fee to the credit card. So that's where credit card companies make their money. Two ways: they make it by people who pay them interest, and then they make it on the transaction fees. And so those transaction fees are typically around 3%, but there's some things like I'm not a big fan of like American Express or other ones. Used to have to carry one for a business company I work for. It was a waste of time. All it did was make my wallet fatter, and it just randomly wouldn't be accepted at a business, which is a problem when you've got you want to get some gas or you're kind of in a bind, and places don't want to take your credit card. And the problem with American Express was their rates 4-something%. So a merchant who's trying to keep things under control will want to pay as low a fee as possible. Sometimes that's counterproductive. And so going back to my story about selling mainly horse stuff, somebody would be looking at a whole bunch of panels, $6,000, $5,000 worth of stuff. And I could tell they might want to get some more, and they'd say, "Oh, can I use a credit card?" And so that's where the assessment on my part came up, because if you say, "Sure, use a credit card," I'm kind of betting that they're going to buy more since they're using a credit card, because that's not really money, and psychologically in most people's minds. Whereas if they've already purchased them, and they don't care, because a lot of people don't realize the fees that are paid to the merchants. They'll say, "Oh, do you want a check?" Oh, man, I have absolutely no problem with checks at all, especially in Alaska selling big things. Nobody's ever burned me on a check, and a check you get 100% of that money. You sell, let's say, a $3,000 purchase. We're talking almost $100 is going to go to the friggin' credit card company, Square, or whoever you're using, whoever your credit card processor is, and most of that funnels back to Visa or whoever. So anyway, yeah, so you have to have discipline, but you also have to have a credit card. I just hate to say it. If you want to rent a car, if you want to rent a hotel, book a flight, I don't know how you're going to get there without a credit card. Either that or you're just going to get ripped off, because you're going to have to put down a cash deposit. You're not going to be able to book in advance. You're not going to be able to take advantage of the deals. So you got to learn to live within it. And maybe just not keep it in your pocket, or whatever it takes to prevent you from overspending, but you need a credit card. All sorts of laws that are established out there. Again, these guys' information is kind of dated. There's always new laws coming in, although it's kind of interesting. The current administration, if you notice, a lot of the bank, credit card companies are located sometimes North Dakota, but more often than not in Delaware, because Delaware, they're very tough on bankruptcies, and they're very tough on not allowing people to discharge debts, get rid of debts associated with a credit card. So it's if you're not voting, but sometimes the donors have more sway with a politician than the voters, and this is definitely the case. Student loans are not dischargeable under bankruptcy. We'll go under bankruptcy to another section, but that's definitely insidious too. To ensure accurate, prevent deceptive practices, credit bureaus. There's 3 big bureaus out there we'll look at here in a while, and they establish your credit score. They're all, roughly independent, and sometimes they have different numbers, but they do a fee for service type thing for the merchants to assure people's credit score. Anyway, impact of credit payments on savings. Well, yeah, but it should be the same as spending. If you're keeping a balance out there, you're subjecting yourself to interest rates, probably over 20%. So it's just not a good deal. But if you get in over your head, you can have real trouble. So they're lumping everything in. We'll talk more about mortgage financing, but that's kind of a no-brainer. You kind of have to, borrow money to buy a home just because of the size of the purchase. And if you waited till you had the cash on hand, you probably lost quite a bit of money in terms of not holding that appreciating asset. Credit history, yep, paying bills. You'd be surprised. It has to get semi-ugly before it starts to get on your credit history. A single late payment's not a big deal. And it happens, and you generally call the people and you say, hey, they hit you with a $30 fee. I've pretty much always been able to talk my way out of that. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot. You just say something like, well, oh, wow, yeah, something happened, and when's the last time I had a late payment? Now, if you've done it back to back, yeah, you're not doing yourself any favors. But, oh, I see it's been over a year. Yeah, we'll go ahead and waive that. Or if they don't want to play ball, hey, guess what? There's plenty of credit cards out there. I'll, switch credit cards. So just cancel one and get the perks with the new one. Anyway, most people used to be tied to Alaska Airlines credit card, and they'd suck it up and deal with Bank of America. But I haven't been flying that. I've been going more international lately, so those miles do me no good. So I'm switching credit cards around. Some people may do that. Some people may need the miles. Anyway, and there's other miles plans. Just while we're on that subject, don't get confused. Miles are not, they're not some, government established increment. Some flights, and the good thing about the Alaska Airlines one, 12.5 or something on a good day will get you to Seattle, no problem. Some of those other ones, man, it'll take like 40,000 to get to Seattle. So miles are not necessarily miles. Credit insurance. Yeah, this is not a scam, but so what happens here is you get a credit card with a company, and then they send you this nice note saying, oh, we're giving you life insurance free of charge because we value your membership and all that. That's not quite accurate. It may be semi-free of charge, but again, it's going to be included somewhere in there in terms of their services. But the big deal is they don't want somebody passing away and leaving a huge credit bill and them having a fight with other creditors. Most credit cards will have some sort of provision to give you a limited amount of life insurance that will pay for that balance that's outstanding. So the credit bureaus. Yep. Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. So there's three, the big three. Free credit reports are available annually. So that is by law, but what they don't have to provide you, and which they won't provide you for free, is your credit score. Do you really need your credit score? It's not that important, but some people really want that credit score. And if you just go online and you say, okay, free credit score, you'll probably end up in a subscription with some company where it costs nothing if you cancel in time, but you'll forget to cancel, you get screwed. Or it'll be something, some Credit Karma kind of thing where you provide them all sorts of information on yourself, and they'll go ahead and give you the score because, they're selling all your data to anybody who wants it. So you may notice a uptick in junk mail and spam. Now, for the free credit report, it's the thorough report that you need. It just lacks that score that some people want. But there's three of them, three big credit reporting agencies. So if you want to be, persistent, you could request one from Equifax. 3 months later, Experian, TransUnion. You could get 3 reports per year. Or if you get denied, if somebody says, yeah, we're declining your credit card, that's probably something you want to know about. There's probably some derogatory, some unfavorable information. And so that's another time when you can get a credit report and demand it, and they'll have to furnish it to you. These companies, say you go to buy a house and, you're going to pre-qualify for the loan. Anytime you fill out that paperwork and they run your credit check, I don't know how much it is now. It used to be $50. And it's probably $75, $100 now. But anyway, that's a fee you got to pay. as a buyer of a home. So the good news is it's going to be a fee you're going to have to pay later on in the home purchase process. So it's not extra money that will make you do another credit check, and you need to do it, before you go looking for homes to make sure your credit's squared away and that you show some seriousness. You'll get a better deal potentially on the home because somebody who hasn't even run their credit score, I'm not going to come down a nickel because who knows? This person doesn't even know what their credit is. They could be flaky. If somebody comes in and they've got a letter from the bank saying this person's pre-approved, then you're a little bit more comfortable. You're like, I can sell to this person and this deal's going to go through. I'm not going to find out 6 weeks into the transaction that, the person's a deadbeat. So, again, you get 2 offers. Say there's an offer for $350 and there's an offer for $355. And the $355 doesn't have a letter from the bank. $5,000 is nothing if the deal falls through. So I'll take the lower offer. Besides, you didn't probably get to that point. There's a lot of real estate agents out there, and only a small percentage are any good. About 5% out of the 100, do 95% of the business. There's a few, whatever, movers and shakers who do all the business. And if you say, hey, I want to go look at homes, I've heard you're good, and they ask you, well, are you pre-approved? I wouldn't even put you in the car, truck, whatever. You're wasting my time because you don't know what you're doing, and you're not displaying any seriousness. And later in the process, you may find out, oh man, I actually qualify for $50,000 more. I no longer want to look at any of these homes that we wasted 2 weeks driving around to because I can afford more. So it's just, if you're going to buy a house, you got to do it. Anyway, okay. So getting this stuff out is just, it is crazy. You do it all online, and that will be part of your homework assignment, is to pull your credit report. Do not send it to me. It's for your own, it's kind of the honor system here. It's for your own consumption. Just look at it and see what's involved in it. But just getting it can be a trick depending on, your life experiences. Half of mine is like guessing. What they'll come up with some random address. They'll say, well, have you ever lived at this address? Because they're trying to positively identify me. Well, I've been divorced for 12 years or so, and all kinds of data from my ex-wife is all over that thing. So I have very little faith in the credit agencies just to get beyond the threshold to see what they've got. Their data on me is wildly inaccurate. On the actual credit report, it's fairly, I haven't had too many problems on that, but definitely want to check. Okay, so it's going to have all sorts of information. Yeah, if things went to a collection agency, open and closed accounts, list of companies, and it's probably going to jog your memory. You go, wow, I didn't remember I even had a credit card with that company. And especially if you're like me, where, if they've got 15% off if you get it with a credit card. I don't know how many times I've done that with Home Depot and Lowe's, but 6, 7, 8 times. You only get the good deal. You only get the 15% if you're a new user. So yeah, buy whatever the item is. You pay it off, next day or whatever you want. Cancel that credit card to, minimize your exposure to identity theft, and also kind of reset it so next time you want to buy a refrigerator or something, you can get a better discount on it. And anyway, it may aggravate them, but they don't seem to care. It's just completely, faceless corporations, anonymous, whatever. So sample credit report, yeah, there'll be addresses on there. They may show some bankruptcy. If you've done that, you're kind of wasting your time. Bankruptcy is not a good thing. What happens in a bankruptcy is you basically go to the court and you say, yeah, I'm not very good with money, and here's the proof. I need you to discharge these debts, remove these debts, so that I can, continue in life. And the judge or whoever will, they kind of own you at that point financially, and they'll say, okay, well, give us a list of your assets, and they'll say, yeah, you can keep this one beater car to get back and forth to work, but the boat, the this, the that, that's all gone. We're taking you. You can't go. Well, I really want that. Want to? No. You have turned over your life to the court. Now there are other plans that are like wage earner plans where they don't discharge as much, but they have requirements where they'll discharge some debts, but you'll have to agree to make payments. Because the other thing is too, if you go in there, and I saw this happen with, there's a couple doctors. They bought a condo. They bought the top floor of this place down in Florida, and my buddy was selling real estate down there, and they paid 1.2 million for it. And then the market crashed, and Florida beach properties, all that stuff, very volatile. So the property was now worth 300 grand, and they still had payments for 1.2 million. And anyway, they thought, well, we're just going to declare bankruptcy. Well, they were doctors; they had earning potential, so they went to the judge and said, yes, we want to declare bankruptcy. We're going to start fresh, and the hell you are. You owe these people money. You're going to pay them off. You don't just get to, abuse the system and reset things. So what you want to do and what they let you do it can be two different things, especially if you have the potential to pay people off. It's not fair that they get, that the creditors end up on the hook for your bad investments. So anyway, collection agencies, banks. A lot of times these names are not nearly as straightforward. You may think, oh, I've got the Gap, finance card. You may actually realize that it's, some agreement with Merchants Bank of something. And, I got a credit card through a company to buy a piece of equipment, and it ended up being Synchrony Bank. I never heard of it. And so I saw it in the credit report and come to find out, yep, that was the bank that I was dealing with. So anyway, you have to do some detective work to figure that out. But most of the time, it's going to be fairly short. All paid on time, good to go, good to go. What you're looking for is, paid as agreed, and you don't want to see something about past due. It's very rare, and like I say, you got to push the limit. Being late a month or so is not going to happen. Going to collection agency is going to cause problems. The way collection agencies work is, let's say you owe somebody $5,000 and the business goes, yeah, we're just going to write this off. We'll sell this $5,000 debt to a collection agency for $500. And so that collection agency, the way they make their money, they're entitled to come after you for the full $5,000, which they only paid $500 for it at the auction. And so that's why the collection agencies can be fairly motivated, because they stand to make a lot of money. Now, will they be able to collect from some deadbeats? Not always, but anyway, if it goes to collections, the merchant that you dealt with, they lost about $4,500 by not getting your whole $5,000. They were only to recoup about $500, and the collection agency will get the rest. So that's going to leave a bad taste in their mouth, and they will get even with you. Credit score. So can affect the interest rate received on loans. So if you've got bad credit, you don't have a lot of options. How they come up with it, completely proprietary. These are guesses. Credit utilization, credit history, new credit, different types of credit. This new credit, let's say you're looking for a car, and the dealer wants to kind of get you over the threshold, make you seem like you're committed. So they'll say, oh, can I run your credit? Just to make sure. What they don't tell you is that, no, don't do that. Because if they run your credit, and if you're not serious about it, don't do it. Because if they run your credit, it's going to look on the, to the TransUnion, Experian, whoever's fielding these things, that you're out trying to get a loan somewhere, which is not a big deal. But then you're out trying to get a loan in another place, and then a third place. And I experienced this one time. Again, I was looking for an equipment loan, and I was shopping around, and I compared rates, and I think I had a thing with Freedom Mortgage. Not a great company, but anyway, Freedom Mortgage sends me this letter saying that they were very concerned about my credit situation and why was I trying to get all these loans, and wasn't there something they could do for me in terms of maybe getting a loan on my home equity. But they were nervous that my finances are going down the tubes because I'm trying to take out all these loans. They had lowered my credit score, the credit bureaus had, and now these guys, I had a mortgage for somebody with good credit. Now I've got marginal credit because I tried to establish a bunch of loans in quick succession, and it made them paranoid. So anyway, different information. Yeah, FICO scores 350. The 350 is subterranean. Again, why bother? 600, a good score. Yeah, good if you're whatever. Not good enough. You want to be, sevens. It shouldn't be hard. I bounce up in the eights sometimes, but I don't care because I'm not trying to take out a bunch of loans. But if you get below 600, now you're going to see that, you'll see some teaser rate for say a car loan for 4%, and then they run your credit and they're like, yeah, for you it's going to be 6. So it does have financial consequences. So you want to make sure you have a good credit score. Correcting mistakes. If you see something in there, go ahead and address it. And they have to put things on hold. They got 30 days to investigate and respond back to you. But especially if you see some bogus information in there, you need to get on it. You can also write a personal statement, but nobody really wants to read that. Proving your credit score. So don't do the late payments. Don't be overextended. I don't know about this, especially a credit card that has an annual fee. I don't think having a bunch of credit cards open that's not a comfortable thing for me, especially if I'm not keeping track and all of a sudden I realize there's a balance because there's been some sort of fraud. So call creditors, though. If you think the quiet treatment's going to work and maybe if they'll forget about it, no. They'll actually be fairly reasonable if you contact them. And they do have a credit management type thing where all the credit card people get together and they might see if, say, you've got some stupid credit card where you've got, you're paying 25% interest and you've got no hope and you're just going to try and pay it off, little by little. That's not a great strategy. What they'll probably do is say, look, we can get you a debt consolidation loan where we transfer this loan from this revolving credit card at 25% and we'll put it down into something maybe at half of that rate, and you're going to make fixed monthly payments and you're going to get this taken care of, and we're not going to charge you. If you go to some fixmycredit.com, you're going to have one more bill to pay, and now you take on this adversarial relationship with the credit cards, and they're a little bigger than the fixmycredit.com. I think the big credit card companies are going to win that battle, so be careful. Reviewing your credit report. So twice a year is what they're saying. Yeah. Certainly if you're noticing anything screwed up. Yep. So you can see, when I said 600, they're saying 600 is good. Well, that only puts, 15% below you? Yeah, you want to be, the upper 50 percentile. So I'd say 700 is good. 600 is not bad, but these are not. You need to fix that. But yeah, you can get up in 800, 850. But again, the people who've got those credit scores up here, they're not the ones that need the great credit because they've got things squared away. They've got a lot of assets. So there's only one way to really do this, ftc.gov. So if you just go free credit report, you're going to be, we'll look at that in a second. So we might as well look at it now. Control click should work, right? Oh, click. Come on, dude. So this is going to take you to a government site, a .gov site. And they're going to have all sorts of stuff. But, a federal agency, good luck. Kind of overwhelmed. Not, whatever. But from this site, you're going to go to get your free credit report. So you started out at the .gov site. Now they're going to say, okay, we're going to take you to one of the credit um, credit bureaus. That's actually the joint site they're going to take you to initially. So here's the free credit report, about credit report. So they'll give you a little bit of information and whatever. You just want to get to the link. If you don't qualify for a free one, maybe because you've overdone it, but generally you can get it. So, they're making this difficult, aren't they? I'm just looking for the click on this link kind of thing. It's probably at the bottom of the page. They spent a lot of time typing all the stuff in, and they're not going to be happy unless I have to read it all. Get the free. Okay, here it is. It's pretty fine print. Annual credit report. So other sites pretend to be associated. I mean, anyway, they know what's happening. They know the game. And now there's going to be a disclaimer saying, okay, now you're leaving the trust and safety of a government site, and you're going to be going to this joint site at a painfully slow rate. I did click on it. Yep, go to link. And then you request your free credit report. And there you go. And so the questions are going to start, and it's going to get involved. Because this is just the start. And then there's going to be, all these challenge questions and the rest of that. So just to show you, if I go to free, credit under Google, there's going to be a lot of things that look like a free credit report. Actually, the Gov one's pretty close to the top. But these other ones, freecredit.com, Experian Boost, completely free. Get your free with the FICO score. See, that FICO score is the number people want. Sign up for free. How about just free? No, it's going to be sign up for free. And why do I have to give them a credit card or a bunch of other information? So anyway, what's going to happen here is, somewhere in the process, you're probably going to input your credit card information, but it's fine. It's not going to cost you anything because you're going to remember to cancel. And you probably won't. And there you go. So, Credit Karma, again, if you're getting something for free, you're not. You're the product. You're the one being sold. And maybe it's worth it. And I'm not, I'm not expressing a huge opinion. I just, more junk mail and more email. So the cost is not a financial cost. It's just sort of a different cost. Identity theft. Man, that's why I go through so many credit cards, because always, and I do the paperless, I do everything. But some of these sites, I think the last offense was some of the autofill passwords off of some of the Gmail sites. You think that, I don't need to have a super secure, password for my email because it's just my email. Well, guess what? If you dig into the settings and you go to the auto passwords, and you can actually find the passwords to accounts that you had, and God forbid you've got like some crypto information on there, then you're just done. But anyway, we all know about, I'm not going to, belittle you. If you haven't got the weekly Alaska USA, you need to click here thing, it's not actually Alaska USA, but sometimes they're better than others, but tons and tons of identity theft. I've had it bad. I've had a guy he was down in Oklahoma, but I was driving down the road and I got a thing from Wells Fargo, from legit Wells Fargo site, telling me that they were declining my transfer from my Wells Fargo credit card to my Wells Fargo bank account. I don't have an account with Wells Fargo. And so that was the worst part, calling them. I actually had to go downtown to the Wells Fargo branch because the online facilities, all they could deal with was enter your account number. I didn't start the account. How do I know what the account number? Anyway, So I had a bit of a, senior moment there, a boomer moment where I was just losing it because it was just so ridiculous. But if they get you good. And then they also, what they'll do is they'll, prevent you from accessing the account. So they'll enter all the information. They'll go through. They'll change your other passwords. Anyway. It's we've all seen stuff. So anyway, it could be very expensive. I've never had any money loss, but a lot of time lost, especially with, due to COVID or whatever the excuse of the day is. While everybody's service sucks, is not good. These guys are more into the mechanical stuff. It's, electronic fraud is much more prevalent. I have had, I had somebody get in my bank or take a bank statement out of an Eagle River mailbox I had years ago, and it had one of those bonus checks. And so they wrote a check for $300, and anyway, I got the money back. I actually got $330 back because if those silly checks that you get with your credit card statements, they're not really checks. There's a fee associated with them, and the interest starts immediately. So be careful. Skimming, pretexting, yeah, we're not going to have, the tactics change faster than these guys. That's definitely for sure. I've got some, I'll try and put an identity theft video out there, but it always gets taken down because it had some stuff from the BBC. In Europe, man, they are so much. Some of the gangs from Eastern Europe, I mean, they are slick, and they can do some pretty impressive fake ATMs and other things where they'll have a pinhole camera above the keypad. They'll glue a fake card reader on the front, looks identical, matches perfectly. You shove your card in, they read the magnetic data. They, through the pinhole camera, they got your PIN, and then it's the cell phone type thing that's up in that, where that little skimmer is. It sends the information right off, and you're done. They've drained your bank account. By the time you go to the next ATM, you're finished. So, anyway, crime rings. Yep. When I was in Spain, they had just fake ATMs that would never deposit or withdraw money. They were literally, all they'd say is non funciona. All they'd do was read your card and capture your PIN. They put them in tourist areas, whatever, Plaza del Sol and all these other places where the tourists went, and nobody ever got a dime out of those ATMs. And it was just a card reading device. Welcome to Spain. Violating your mailbox certainly can happen, but more on the electronic side. Most of the stuff is not on it, and they're talking about checks again. But a lot of the community kind of mailboxes or mailboxes that are out there in line, I've had passports stolen, I've had everything stolen. I was coming back from Malta this past spring, and I had this chatty passport guy coming back through wherever, LA or something, and he said, "Oh, I see you had your passport stolen a couple of years ago." And it was just amazing. The guy knew more about me, but I've also had the same thing. I was coming back from Baltimore one time from Turkey, and I didn't complain, but I said, "Is the reason why it's taking this long?" And the guy said, "Well, with your criminal record." I'm like, "Wait a minute, maybe we have me confused with somebody." So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Shop on them. Most sites are secured anymore. You got to look at the statements, but you can't wait for the statements. You got to look at them online. The way the banks work, the way the laws work, the quicker you notice it, the more pleasant it's going to be for everybody. If you let it go over a month, you may be on the hook for it. So don't do that. But if you get it initially, within like a few hours or something, they haven't even given the money to the merchant. So they just cancel it. They're not trying to get money back. I had a daughter. Well, I had a daughter. I do have daughters. And she was down in Atlanta and had to take a taxi, and this scammer, he took her credit card, charged her $75 to go across the airport. She was in tears. Anyway, I called the credit card company, and they canceled that thing right off. And that one we actually reported to the police too, because the guy he wasn't even a legitimate cab driver. He had a cab and all that, but the cab token, that person had died several years ago. So she's lucky she got out of that. But the financial aspects of that were dead easy. They had no problem canceling that. So if there's some fraud, that's another reason. If you would have paid cash, you'd be done. So Social Security numbers. Anyway, I keep going off on stories, but when I first joined the military, I was in Germany, and they said, oh, you need to engrave your name and your Social Security number on all your equipment. So now when they steal your stereo, your camera, whatever, they also have all your info. Good idea. Military intelligence. Identity theft insurance. I haven't been hit that well. I haven't been hit financially, but a lot of times these guys, it's already happened. Take immediate action. Sometimes you do have to contact the police, which is a complete joke. You go down to wherever and you pay them $15 and you get the police report that they want, and then you send the police report. The boys, it's the Big Lebowski. The boys at the crime lab do not care about your stolen rug, your stolen whatever. They're not going to lose any sleep. But sometimes for insurance and other purposes, you need a police report. So you just pay them the fee, and you do it right there in the office. No officers involved. It's just done at a counter. Contact creditors. Yeah. A lot of times when I do, travel to some of the crazier places, I will pull everything out of my wallet and take a picture of everything front and back, because just having a copy is hugely valuable, especially when you want to be able to call these people to cancel things. So that's good. So credit card companies, we already saw how to get a hold of them. Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. So that was that part of identity theft. It's a great video. I'll try and link it up again, but YouTube usually takes it down and gives me a strike. So if it disappears after a while, I'll have 2 videos up. I'll try and put up the good one, and then I'll put up a second one on identity theft as well. You'll only have to do one. Credit cards. So again, be a convenience user. Yeah, I don't want to click it right now because it might take down the whole lecture. This is the link to it, if it's even still up. Yeah, you can overspend if you're not responsible, but you can do lots of things. I mean, it's like having a gun or a knife. Yeah, you can use it for all sorts of responsible things, or you can be a homicidal maniac. It's the same thing. It's not necessarily the weapon. It's more the person. How a loan grows over time. So this is completely redundant to what we talked about in terms of compound interest and how it can grow exponentially. So they'll have a few examples in here, but the stuff we talked about the first day, just realize how well compound interest works. And, there's 2 types of people in the world. People who earn interest and people who pay interest. And so, yeah, if you're paying that interest, it's going to, you're insuring a very good life for a bunch of, very big bankers. It's not probably where you want to be. Applying for a credit card. Inflows, outflows, it's usually just done on a thing. Most of the time, people, one of the first things people get is a cell phone. And you get an account with whoever, AT&T or something like that. That gets you some established. Again, you may want to do it, but if you do the whole Prestige or, Vanity card, some American Express thing, annual fees and I just don't like it. Nobody's or the people that are impressed by it are probably not the people you want to do. Although if I traveled all the time and they had access to one of those clubs in the airport, that might be a benefit that I might be after if those things still exist. So traveling domestically is painful. Other information creditors evaluate, yeah, income. They definitely want to know about that. Existing debt level, they're not going to ask you. They'll get that from the credit bureau. And current economic conditions. Yeah, sometimes they're more apt to do it, or the laws have changed. A lot of times when you look on your credit report, you'll see inquiries, and there's usually a correlation between those inquiries and the junk mail you're getting. You know, if you see an inquiry from Chase or, you know, Citigroup or something like that, they've looked at your credit, they've paid, you know, the bureau, they decide you've got good enough credit, and they start flooding you with bills. Or they tailor those bills to, you know, better deals for better credit. Visa, American Express. American Express, too, is kind of different in the fact that these ones, you know, you pay it all off, or you make a monthly payment. Or American Express, they typically want all their money at the end of the, requires payment in full, typically. Yeah. Store cards, I guess if you're going to do that, you know, I guess if Amazon goes away and you have to start shopping in department stores and stuff again, sometimes the only way to get the reasonable deal is by using their card, but it usually ends up just in a fatter wallet. Gas station cards, those used to be the norm, but not so much. Credit limit, yep, overdraft protection. So that's another reason to have a credit card, is that overdraft is super important. Whereas if your checking account, if you overdraw, it just rolls onto your credit card. So not great, but again, it's not going to cost you any money, and it's not going to leave any black marks. Annual fee. For the most part, there's better be some pretty good perks associated with it if I'm not paying an annual fee, because there's lots of cards out there without annual fees. And then the incentives to use the card. So, yeah. Gold, platinum. I mean, I don't know. You know, I tell you what, if we're out at a bar or something, and the one person's flashing around their card, I'm scraping for cash, I feel zero guilt on going, yeah, why don't you pick it up? You know, Mr. Whatever. I do like the new metal cards. Some of the bank, I've got an Amazon card that actually came and it's metal, which is kind of cool. But anyway, easily impressed. So the grace period. Now, like I said, with those checks, with cash advances, with anything where you're getting cash, a credit card is not an ATM card. If you do that, you will figure it out. They charge you fees from the get-go. There's no grace period. But for purchases, yeah, you do have a period of time. The interest rate depends. Depends on your credit, depends on your situation, depends on your card. But again, don't do cash advances. Finance charge. Average daily balance. Anyway, you got to look at your card. Typically, it doesn't matter because your goal is to not carry a balance. If you don't carry a balance, your finance charge is zero. Estimated credit repayment, yeah, and then APR. So any type of loan you get, you know, if you see a rate quoted, it's got to be quoted in APR by law. So it may be expressed someplace else, but they'll also have to be written down as annual percentage rate, because that's what, you know, the apples to apples comparisons are made with. If they offer some weird rate or introductory rate, you want to know what the annual percentage rate is. Larger the interest, the larger you owe. Yep. So again, more stuff that just makes you, realize that you can pay a lot more for the original item if you let it stretch out. Credit repayment. So again, it can get quite expensive. Don't wait for the thing. Check your account, Try and get in a habit, maybe weekly or something like that. That will probably put you in pretty good shape. If you've actually waited for this printed statement, it's not bad to look at, but hopefully it's not the first time you've seen it. Because you'll just see, when they hit you, they usually hit you pretty quick. In the bank account or the credit card people themselves will typically send you a text saying approve or decline or whatever, and you don't recognize it because they track your patterns and stuff like that. They also, if you'll give them access, they'll track your phone. And so now they know, oh, the phone, the location data is different than where the credit card's being used at. Or sometimes if you're really aggressive traveling, I've done some road trips, picking up horses or something in the lower 48 and, drive from Texas to Montana in a very short time. And the credit card people are just like, yeah, this doesn't compute. There's no way somebody would drive that long. Yeah, maybe they would. But anyway, it starts to get declined when you get to Montana. There's others acts that have since been passed, but they're all about, credit. Now, a lot of these rules are enshrined for credit cards and not so much for debit cards. Debit cards are not bad, but again, if you go to a hotel, they'll, or wherever, and you're trying to reserve something, and they say, is this a credit or a debit? Sometimes they'll get a little, they won't want to take your debit card, so. Yep. Pay credit cards. Yeah, there's no realistic scenario where you're going to make more money on your investing than you are on your credit cards. Besides, if you make any money investing, you're going to have to pay taxes on it, whereas credit cards, obviously, it's just a bill. Avoid credit repair services. So the commercial ones, it's fine to talk to the credit card companies. It's encouraged, but the other ones are not. They're not your friends. Resolving excess balance. Yeah, obviously cut down if you can. Consider ways to increase income. You can only do that for so long. Maybe borrow from a family member. But again, you got to get your spending back in order. Consider a debt consolidation loan. And the credit card companies may be the ones to help you with that. Sell assets for cash. Reduce everyday expenses. So that kind of goes hand in hand with the first one. Get you through a scrape. Personal bankruptcy. So Chapter 7 is the one trying to discharge it all. But you're going to find out there's some nasty things in here, like the one you really want to discharge is that student loan. And yeah, nope, not happening. 13, this one is where they put you on under a different plan. And it's not like you go, okay, great, I did, my bankruptcy, and so now I'm good to go. I can go get credit again. Not for about 7 years. And your credit report is going to be, it's going to have that data on there, so you're going to be viewed as a deadbeat. It's not a easy, quick fix to your problem. Just some easy questions. So anyway, review your credit report. Do not turn it in. And then do just this problem. Problem 6. All right. Good luck.